I give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone well, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal. Alright, so the pride of Edom, alright, is in vain on the 4th of July, 2026, the year of apostasy and Jacob's trouble. Alright, you had Esau celebrating their so-called Independence Day, and right where the king of Babylon, Nero 47 was, they were scattered by lightning. Okay, so I'm gonna let this play, and you're gonna hear it right out of his own mouth. All right, pretty much they were visited by the Lord, and they don't even know it really. Maybe the higher ups do, but these average level Edomites, right, that are all drunk on their pride, that are deceived, right, thinking that their kingdom is gonna last forever. They were scattered by lightning.
Here is the moment. He and the First Lady are now on the stage, and we will see if President Trump takes the microphone now that people are back in position on the National Mall.
Good evening, America. If you think that was easy, it wasn't. And I want to thank everybody because they did the right thing. They saw lightning, and I said, there's no way if we have to speak in front of one person at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be here. There's no way we can be deterred.
So that's pride right there, all right? So it says in the scriptures in Psalm 144 verse 6, cast forth lightning and scatter them. That's what happened on their 4th of July. Yahweh had his angels, which he commands through Yahweh Shai, to cast forth lightning and scatter them, the Edomites. They were scattered by lightning. While what's coming soon is nuclear destruction. All right? Shoot out thine arrows. The arrows are the nuclear missiles, and destroy them. That's the future of Edom. All right? Their kingdom is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles, which are made in the image of arrows. Intercontinental ballistic missiles. It's according to prophecy, biblical prophecy. All right. The Lord did this even in Egypt. Now, when Yahweh had the Israelites led out of Egypt, all right, which they followed a chariot, they were separated from the Egyptians by a storm, okay, which that chariot separated them through the storm, all right? The chariot caused the storm. It was coming off of the chariot. It says in verse 21 of Exodus 13, and Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar. See, so Yahweh led them out, and that pillar of a cloud went up into a chariot to lead them away, and by night in a pillar of fire, and gave them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. All right, and then the Lord separated them with a storm. All right, so I had Google summarize it. All right, I recommend you read it for yourself. It says, according to biblical account in the book of Exodus, which they left Egypt, the Lord Yahweh separated the two camps by moving the pillar of cloud and fire behind the Israelites, enveloping the Egyptians in darkness and preventing them from getting close. Yahweh then parted the Red Sea using a powerful overnight storm. You see? So Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai controls the weather. All right. And lightning blesses the Lord. In the prayer of Azarias, let me get my other app right here. The Apocrypha. The prayer of Azariah. At the end it says, bless the Lord. He tells all these elements to bless the Lord. So it obeys the Lord, pretty much is what he's saying here. Verse 51, O ye lightnings and clouds, bless ye Yahweh, praise and exalt him above all forever. So who controls the storms? Who controls the lightning? Which he has angels to do these things, but he himself rides a chariot, a throne fit for judgment. All right. And he controls the lightnings and the clouds. All right. Which he had his son, Yahweh Shai, make them to serve him. It says that in John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word is Yahweh Shai. And the Word was with Yahweh. And the Word was power, because Yahweh Shai was a God in the beginning when he was created. And then he was made flesh so that he could be crucified and die and deliver the Israelites from the wage of their sin, which is death. So he came down as flesh through a woman by the seed of Joseph, out of the line of Judah. All right. It says the same was in the beginning with Elohim. The hopeful elect are the Elohim from the past that were with Yahweh Shai when he created everything. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. So Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh is the Father, Yahweh Shai is the Son, all right, and they control everything on earth. In fact, the earth was created so that his will could play out. It says in Romans 9 and 11, for the sons, Esau and Jacob, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of all power Yahweh, which he declares through his son Yahweh Shai, according to election, might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. The elder is Esau, and he's going to go into slavery under the younger, Jacob. All right, right now, Jacob is enslaved under Esau. Esau is the so-called white race. They're the red devil the Bible speaks of. All right, they're proud. They're drunk on pride. All right, their pride has deceived them. All right, and they're going to go into slavery. All right. And if you, we'll see how long we get into that speech, but you can see the pride on these Edomites with Nero 47, king of Babylon, talking about America being in power forever. All right. Which is not correct. Really, they only have a little more time to go before their end, because America is going to lose World War III according to biblical prophecy, and they're going to be turned into a lake of nuclear fire via nuclear missiles shot off by their allies, the European Union, NATO nations, UN nations, and their enemies, the BRIC nations. It says, verse 13, as it is written, it's written where in the scripture, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So this is what the Lord has commanded. This is why we are enslaved under Esau, because he's going into perdition. All right. This is the Lord's will. All right. Yahweh Shai already paid for our sins. So there's no payment. There's no other payment for sin, for the wage of sin. So he brought us into this land all right, to condemn the wicked, the Edomite, which crucified Yahushua as Roman Edomites. It says, what shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with Yahweh or Yahushua? Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushua forbid. All right, because look what they do on the earth. They're wicked, right? They look at those 16 kids that were found in a room that they sat in for 4 years, right? They were being tortured by their adoptive parents, and they were given to those people by the system. That's how wicked this place is. All right. And there's many things that they're guilty of. Many. All right. I just seen an article that said that they've arrested like 5,000 children, like toddler age, infant to toddler age, dealing with their Ice Cube and Ice T program. All right. And we know what they were doing to children in the Epstein files. So these devils, they have only a short time. All right. They only have a short time before they go into perdition. All right. So I'm going to go back to the video. Let's see.
When deep of the earth and good evening, America. If you think that was easy, it wasn't. And I want to thank everybody because they did the right thing. They saw lightning, and I said, there's no way if we have to speak in front of one person at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be here. There's no way we can be deterred.
All right. So right there, it just made me think of Obadiah. It says in verse 1, the vision of Obadiah, which was an Israelite, thus saith Yahweh's power concerning Edom. Edom means red. That's the name of the Edomites, the so-called white. They're so-called white because they're not white. They are red. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle, which is the Egyptian president that said they left they left black and came back white, talking about the counterfeits in the land of Israel, right? The Egyptian president, he said that the original Israelites were dark-skinned people. When they left, when they came back, these counterfeits, the so-called white race that's in the Holy Land, right, which they had a 6-day war over this. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, which there's fewer of them than any other race. Thou art greatly despised. And you can see that throughout the world today. That's why their 4th of July was so important to them, because really they're greatly hated throughout the whole world. That's why when they had the march in D.C. yesterday, on the 4th of July, you had the so-called white supremacists marching, which shows they're not superior, because why were they hiding their face? If they're so superior, why are you afraid of anybody that's inferior? But that shows you that they're not. They are the inferior race. All right, they are not superior. It says, verse 3, the pride of thine heart have deceived thee. And that's pride, right? That thou shalt, it says, the pride of thine heart have deceived thee, that thou that dwelleth in the cliffs of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? That's their pride. Who could go to war with America? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, their symbol, the great seal of America is an eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, Space Force, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh, which Yahweh is visiting Egypt. All right. Isaiah 19, verse 1, the burden of Egypt, behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt. America is spiritual Egypt. And the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. He scattered them with his lightning. And the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it when he shoots them arrows to their destruction. Through the hearts of men, these heathen men that have the military might on earth, he's going to use them, which were allies to America. He's going to turn their heart as enemies against America. All right. And he's going to use that great sword that he gave Edom, the nuclear missile, to destroy them. Remember, it says in Galatians 6, it says, God is not mocked. Everything that you sow, you shall reap. All right. It says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, which there's going to be wars in the street of America, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. So you're going to have internal conflicts in America, and then you're going to be in World War III, which is already happening. All right. But America is going to lose World War III and be turned into a lake of fire. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail. That's why there's no more jobs. There's no more prosperity. All these restaurants are shutting down. I was saying it yesterday at camp. I just found out Taste of Colorado, which was operating since late 1800s, they just canceled it. Why? Because they said it was too expensive to operate. See, so this place is collapsing. All right. It's literally imploding. All right. But it is going to be destroyed by nuclear missiles according to biblical prophecy. And I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols. And that's why they wanted to hear Nero speak so bad. They said they'll wait till 2 a.m. to hear him speak, because really they're troubled at the state of America. All right. And to the charmers, which you hear them on these media shows, trying to give their people vain forms of hope that America is going to be healed. And that's why they're going to bring out that cryptocurrency, and then that digital wallet, the implantable microchip, the mark of the beast, all right, to try to heal their kingdom, Babylon the Great, which is going into perdition. It says, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards, which that's why, who do you have controlling the system is Mega. Mega is the highest form of witchcraft. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, Nero 47. And a fierce king shall rule over them, saith Yahweh, the Lord of hosts. All right. And he's sending his troops, the chariots, the armies of heaven, to come and fight against the devil and his angels, the so-called white race and their military. All right. And it's going to be in only 1 day and 1 hour, pretty much the kingdom of Edom, the wicked, all right, it's going to be destroyed and be no more. All right.
And they estimated they had 375,000 people before everybody had to leave. And
which was funny because a lot of them had to run into they said the African American Museum of Slavery. All right. All these Edomites celebrating their 4th of July, which were scattered by lightning, had to run in to the African American Slave Museum.
Organizers have evacuated the Salute to America 4th of July event because of this severe weather heading our way here. But what's happened next is just utter confusion. There's folks, as you can see, just streaming out of the event in lines, confused, not entirely sure where to go. They were first told to head here to the African American Museum for shelter that ended up filling up and being closed. So as you can see, there's just folks standing around, smiling, certainly trying to make the most of it. But there's law enforcement here, National Guard, Metropolitan Police, Secret Service, all trying to get people to move out to a safe location ahead of the expected storms. Event organizers have been back
now than we've ever done before. New people have done more good, shown more courage, made more progress, righted more injustice, or achieved more greatness than you, the American people. For 250 years, the United States.
But in fact, the Almighty Yahweh and His Son Yahweh Shai say the opposite, which their word is more powerful than the wicked, for it says that they are the wicked. All right, and this is why He hates Esau and loves Jacob. All right, Esau is the wicked, the so-called white race, which you can see Nero 47. He is red. If you look at his neck, right, he has a white collar, and his skin does not blend in. All right, they are the wicked, and they are not white. They are red, and they've done the most wickedness. That's why the future of the so-called white race is extinction. All right, it's Isaiah 14 and 21. Isaiah 14 and 21. Isaiah 14 and, in fact, I'll start at 1. It says, "For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel." The Israelites are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. Right now, you got a bunch of counterfeits in that land. It says, "And the strangers shall be joined with them, which are Israelites, which have been scattered throughout the world in slavery through the unicorn, the internet. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob." They're going to believe the prophecies, the scriptures by the prophets, and they're going to believe in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. It says in verse 2, "And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them, and the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids." So the other nations are going to be our slaves. "And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors." That's why you have an African-American slave museum. America was built on the slavery of the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which are the biblical Hebrew Israelites. All right. "And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb," which is prophecy against the king of Babylon, Nero 47, "and say, How had the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? Yahweh had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers." Yahweh, all right, is shutting this place down. It says in verse 12, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?" Talking about the elite of Esau, the so-called white race that control the world through their finance system. "Son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations," which they weakened the nations through corruption. All right. "For the wicked, the so-called white race, they corrupted the whole earth with their wickedness." All right. Let's see. Let's go down to 21. It says, "Prepare slaughter," which we're preparing you for slaughter. We're telling you the truth, which you're going to say we're enemies for telling you the truth. "For his sons, the Edomites that are alive today, for the iniquity of their fathers, which they have enslaved our people, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities, because Yahweh hates Esau. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and son and nephew, saith Yahweh." Babylon is America. Babylon the Great is another name for America. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts. Let me see what it says in the other translations. NLT, I will make Babylon a desolate place of owls, which after the nuclear destruction, when it cools down and becomes a desert, desert creatures will dwell here. Filled with swamps and marshes, I will sweep the land with the broom of destruction. That's why the nuclear missile was invented. Yahweh gave that technology through Yahweh Shai to Esau, which they're obeying Satan, an angel that obeys Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai. I, Yahweh of heaven's armies, have spoken. See, so it's going to be destroyed by fire. It's going to be turned into a lake of fire. All right. So let's go back.
150 years, the United States of America has been the hope, the promise, the light, and the glory among all of the nations of the world. All over the world, they try and be like us. Nobody can be like us.
And that's why they're known as Lucifer, the light bearer, because everybody wanted to come to America. Everybody wanted to be like an American, right? In fact, when they meet their destruction, it says the nations weep. Revelation 18 and verse 15, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. The destruction of America is going to shake the earth. 200 million nuclear warheads is going to devour America, turn it into a lake of fire. And saying, Allah's, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, meaning nothing. In 1 hour, it's all going to be destroyed. It's all going to go up in smoke. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her, America, burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? See, what city is like America? There is no other city like America. All right?
With God's help, we will always be this or even better.
And see, he said with God's help, but the Lord had him raise up to this point so that he could destroy this kingdom. Just like he did to Pharaoh. He allowed Pharaoh to grow in power, right, the Egyptians, so that he could destroy them. Romans 9 verse 17, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up. So Nero 47 is like Pharaoh. He thinks he's a god, all right? And Yahweh raised him up so that he could show his power in their downfall. Even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. That's why he has the prophets before the destruction. We're telling you who's going to do it. Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh has put it in his command, right? He commanded it, and Yahweh Shai is faithful and true. He's going to fulfill it, all right? Therefore, it says, therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth, which he's hardening the heart of Pharaoh right now. That's why they can't see what's about to happen. You know, they can, but they can't understand it because they think they're going to be forever, right? They think their technology, their miracles is going to save them. Like the golden dome. It ain't going to save you. It can't save you. All right? It says, though thou wilt say then unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? They're just doing what the Lord created them to do. They're wicked. They were created to be wicked. Nay, but, O man, who art thou that replieth against Yahweh or his son Yahushai, or even against the elect? For Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai has justified the elect. Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Right? Why'd you make me an Edomite? Had not the potter power over the clay of the same lump? So Isaac, if you understand, that was Yahushai in one of his lifetimes. He had two sons, Esau and Jacob. So this is what it's talking about. Of the same lump, Isaac, to make one vessel unto honor, the Israelite, and another unto dishonor, the Edomite. What if Yahweh, through Yahushai, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction? And they're perfect. They're the wicked. If anyone in the world deserves to be destroyed by nuclear fire, it's the Edomite. Who dropped the atomic bomb? Oh, it won't play. I was going to let it AI speak, but it don't play. It says the United States, the great whore, is the only country to have dropped atomic bombs in warfare, doing so on Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, during the final days of World War II.
We're going to be better. Here on our National Mall, we're celebrating freedom's triumph over tyranny, liberty's conquest over...
And see, he said over tyranny, but really they're the tyrants. All right? And this is what the Lord's going to do. He broke the staff of the wicked because of their tyranny, their tyrants, that they ruled over the nations with anger. I believe it's Obadiah. It says, let me see. All right, so I got Obadiah verse 8. It says, shall I not in that day, saith Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau, and thy mighty men, O Teman, Teman are the Germans, shall be dismayed to the end, that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. That's why they came up with the invention, and it was given to them, the idea of making the nuclear missile, the Space Force. They're trying to fight against Yahweh and his son Yahushai. It says, and thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the end, that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Now going to Isaiah 14. All right, and let me see. Verse 6, it says, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and none hindereth. That's why you got these so-called white supremacists marching in D.C. with masks on, afraid, because they're becoming irrelevant. All right? Even their women don't even want them. All right? I've had that situation a couple times already. You know, an Edomite woman trying to flirt with you and her man be right there next to you. Because really, a so-called white man is the lowest, weakest form of mankind there is. All right. And now through the internet, the unicorn and the prophets, you know, that use the internet to teach the truth, it's becoming even more relevant that the so-called white race is irrelevant. All right. So let's go ahead and come down to in anger. He that ruled the nations in anger. Oh, it's not opening. Son of a gun. Alright, so I keep trying to pull up where it speaks about Esau using tyranny to rule over the nations, which is Isaiah 14. And as you can see, it's not working. Esau, the prince of the air, right, is trying to interfere with this lesson. I have multiple phones, and it will not pull up Isaiah 14, verse 6 in any other version, right? And if you know what this word means here, null, translate, zero, nothing. In Norwegian, the word null directly translates to zero, nothing, or nil. It is used interchangeably with zero. All right. So it's Esau fucking with the internet. All right. But Esau is the one that's going to go into perdition, them and their kingdom. So I just Googled it, in a different version, Isaiah 14 NLT version. Verse 6, it says, you struck the people. It says in verse 6, you struck the people with endless blows of rage and held the nations in your angry grip with unrelenting tyranny. And this is talking about Edom. All right. Isaiah 14. And it says, a taunt for Babylon's king. Nero 47 is the king of Babylon.
Triumph over tyranny, liberty's conquest over oppression, and the enduring victory of the American spirit from the July 4th, 1776 to July 4th, 2026. Big day.
So, as it says in Isaiah 14, let me go ahead and get the KJV now. Let's see. We're going to go back to Isaiah 19. Once again, the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. That's why they were so in the spirit of trying to celebrate 4th of July, because they're trying to find some form of confidence because they know that their system is crumbling. All right. And there were so many omens. There was a video of a parachute, a man with a parachute of an American flag, and he fell to the ground face first because the American flag got caught up in the tree. All right. They have many omens, which the inaugurated president is an augur of Rome. So they're supposed to see these omens and know what's happening as a witch or as a wizard, as a having familiar spirits. All right. Which he's an idol and he charms the people. That's why they wanted to see him. And that's why he said, even if I have to say this speech at 2 a.m., he had to do it. Because really, the American people, the so-called white race, which is the whore that rides the beast is the European Union. All right, they're all panicking because they know their end is near. This is why it says in Revelation 12, the devil comes down with great wrath, knowing that he hath but a short time. All right, and they are definitely running out of time.
That's big dates, two big ones. And tonight our country is stronger, freer, richer, safer, and prouder than ever before.
And you got to remember what the scriptures say about pride. Pride cometh before the fall. Before the fall. It says pride Let's see. Proverbs 16 verse 18, it says, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. So America's only future is to fall in destruction. And as Yahweh Shai says, it's going to fall like lightning. When you go to Isaiah 14, all right, which is the Old Testament, it says in verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, which the elite of the so-called white race, they are considered Lucifer. This is the kingdom of Lucifer, being that they're the light bearer to the world. Son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations through their tyranny. Now, let's go into cross-reference to see if that works. Yep. And we're going to go to where Yahweh Shai said in verse 10, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan, the so-called white race, which back then were the Greeks and the Romans. Today they're the Americans and the European Union. All right. As lightning fall from heaven, which their whole system is going to fall into nuclear destruction. All right. Starting with the Great Whore. All right. And the military of these Edomites is going to be destroyed in the Valley of Slaughter, in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. That's Armageddon. The mountain of troops are going to be destroyed when Yahweh Shai returns with the host of heaven. All right.
Than ever before. But it all started with the miracle of history that lives forever in the heart of every single patriot. In Philadelphia, our founding fathers summoned the courage of giants and the wisdom of centuries to boldly proclaim these timeless truths. They declared that all men are created equal.
Which is a goddamn lie. All right, because this is why in their Constitution it says that so-called African American slaves were 1/5 of a man. It's 3/5. It says the U.S. Constitution originally stated that enslaved people would be counted as 3/5 of a person for political representation and taxation, not 1/5. So it's 3/5 of a person. So they're liars, okay? They lie to your face, all right?
That they are endowed with sacred, unalienable rights by the hand of our Creator.
Which I already went into that. Yahweh created through Yahweh Shai, which he was Isaac, Esau, and Jacob. Esau is going to be dishonored. Jacob is going to be honored. All right. In fact, let's go to Malachi 1. Malachi 1, verse 1, it says, the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel by Malachi, which was an Israelite. I have loved you, saith Yahweh, yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us, because of all the hard bondage that we have served? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith Yahweh, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau. Esau is the forefather of the so-called white race. That's why his name was Esau Ishawah, meaning wasted away, because he was red, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness, which is their nuclear destruction. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom Yahweh hath indignation forever. And your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, Yahweh will be magnified from the border of Israel. When you go into, okay, so it's not pulling it up again. But if you go into another translation, it pretty much says you'll see his power is beyond the borders of Israel, because we're scattered throughout the world. And we're here enslaved in Babylon the Great, who are to be destroyed by nuclear fire when Yahweh sends Yahweh Shai back. All right. And so the world, they're going to recognize the power of Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, when America is destroyed and the whole earth shakes. All right. And they're going to see our salvation, which is going to be strange to them because they don't know what's in the Bible. That's why this is known as a new song. All right. Psalm 149. It says in verse 1, praise ye Yahweh, sing unto Yahweh a new song. And it's a new song to the world because they didn't know this was in the scripture, because Christianity is a goddamn lie. And his praise in the congregation of saints. Saints are the Israelites that are sanctified by the truth. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him, because we were created to inherit everything. Let the sons of Zion be joyful in their king. We rejoice in Yahweh, in Yahweh Shai, and that we have our King David, which King Masha, all right, he taught the truth in Babylon and won west. Let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and harp. For Yahweh taketh pleasure in his people, the Israelites, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, that is repenting, which we've been scattered throughout the world, and we look like all the different nations. So not every Israelite is going to look like a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American Indian. You got Israelites that look like Nero 47. You got Israelites that look like Stephen Miller. All right. So not every Israelite is going to be a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American Indian in 2026. It's according to prophecy. In the last days, we're able to identify the Israelites according to prophecy. All right. Now, if you have a person, you know, that looks like a so-called white man, if the spirit testifies with their spirit, that's because they're Israelites. But if they don't understand, that's because they're the wicked, you know, they're of the other nations. It says, for Yahweh taketh pleasure in his people, which it's his pleasure to give us the kingdom, which the other nations will be our slaves. He will beautify the meek, the willing Israelite with salvation. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of our power be in their mouth, which is prophecy, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye Yahweh.
And that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In signing their names to the roster of freedom, those 56 patriots put everything at risk, stepped onto the stage of destiny, and seized a victory for the ages, and that's what it was. And this is an evening for the ages, I believe. This is something very special. This is bigger than if we didn't have the lightning blaring. We had lightning blaring, but this is bigger.
See that pride? He's trying to say that he is God. See, he's trying to say he's bigger than God. Right? Which is in the Bible, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, and by our gathering together unto him, Let me jump down. Verse 3, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, which happened. We lost who we were in slavery through the tyranny that we had to suffer. And that man of sin be revealed, the so-called white man, the son of perdition, which they're going into destruction, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Which even Nero 47 did that with AI. He tried to make himself a god. All right. So these devils, they only got a short period of time. All right. And this is why they're going to come down with great wrath, because their only answer is to try to murder the prophets, to try to stop the prophecy.
A little more inconvenient, but it's bigger. I think in its own way, it's more beautiful. From the beginning, we were a nation that lived by the motto, victory or death, and live free or die.
And the reason they had that was because they were enslaved in the Dark Ages, all right, under dark-skinned people. That's why it's called a dark age, all right? So when they came out in the Renaissance, the rebirth of the so-called white race, and they began to conquer the world with the sword, they came to America, and they try to write all these laws to try to protect their inferior race, all right?
1 out of every 100 Americans gave their lives in the fight for independence to remind us of who these heroes were and what they gave us. We are honored to have here tonight in the heart of our nation.
Which, that's a big lie, because why are they doing deals with London now? You know, with King Charles, with the Prime Minister of UK, right? Why are they still in bed with the British if they were free from the British and their taxation? See, they call it financial aid now, but it's taxation. It says financial aid to the UK from America generally falls into two categories: federal education funding for study abroad and governmental foreign assistance. You see? So they still give them money, all right? It's just under different labels. It says in number 2, U.S. government foreign assistance. From a geopolitical standpoint, the U.S. provides foreign aid to the U.K., which is classified as a high-income nation. Economic assistance, foreign aid, foreign aid obligates roughly $750 million directly, strictly toward non-military economic development and transportation purposes. At the same time, the streets of America are crumbling. At the same time, we don't even have a light rail or a train that, you know, you could ride in a moment to go across the country. The European Union does. They got a train you could ride multiple countries, ride it through multiple countries. So this shows you that they're still being taxed by the crown, all right? And America is still subject to debt, which that's because the Israelites are here and we are enslaved, subject to debt, all right? Which it says in, I believe it's Habakkuk 2, and right here, verse 6, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, which is the debt. Okay, when you go into that word, thick clay, or two words, thick clay. 3 words. It says there are 3 words. It says with thick clay. Oh, now it's doing it. But it's debt. When you look up that word, it means debt. All right. Esau is trying to interfere with this lesson. So you'll have to look it up for yourself. But that word there is thick. For thick clay is debt. Okay. It says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. And that's what they're trying to do. That's why Nero 47 is building a bunker under the ballroom of the White House, because they're trying to escape the evil that they are bringing upon themselves. All right. They have a debt. All right. That they can't escape, the blood of the Israelites. All right.
There is one God, the God of the Israelites. There is one God, the God of the Israelites. There is one God, the God of the Israelites. And he is a stern and vengeful God. And we have been mocking him far too long. And now he demands retribution in blood.
Isaiah 63. Who says that cometh from Edom, with dying garments from Bozrah? This is no reasons of cattle traveling in the greatness of strength. I that speak righteousness ready to save. Wherefore art thou made thy apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the light. I have trodden upon the dust, and of the people there was none with me. But I have tread them in the hand, and trampled them in my fury, and called to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword.